Hello, I am Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. In today's lesson, I will explain to you how to answer the 4 marker descriptive and 6 marker applicative psychology SAQs for the latest IB syllabus. So, this lesson is meant for those students who are going to appear for their papers in 2027. That is, students are going to officially begin learning from August 2025. I'm going to give you a brief introduction first. I'll introduce you to myself and to the new curriculum, whatever developments have taken place so far. I'll introduce you to them. So, if you're not interested and you want to directly begin with answering the first SAQ, please make use of the timestamps below and just skip a little into the video. Okay, so first to introduce myself, I'm Jyotika Varmani. From more than 10 years, I have been tutoring IB psychology students across the globe with excellent results, with 7s and high 6s. So if you want to score well, you can contact me for private tuition for IB psychology. I'm leaving my contact number and email ID in the description box and pinned comment below. I would suggest and strongly recommend a very early head start. Don't wait for the last minute thinking that, oh, there are 2 years to give the IB papers, so we can start learning after a year or a year and a half. That's not how the IB works. It's a challenging curriculum. It's not difficult, it's not impossible, but it requires constant, sincere practice. So start away with your classes right now. Especially in the new syllabus, we are having a lot to do with application, research methods. You have to do investigations. So you're going to need a lot of guidance and mentoring throughout. So definitely you can contact me for that. You can contact me for one-to-one classes or for any help you need with your internal assessment projects. And now with the new syllabus coming in, if you selectively need help for research methods, questions, or for your extended essay or anything of that sort related to psychology, or if you just want your papers corrected and you want feedback for that, you can contact me. Now coming to the new syllabus for the IB, at the time of making this video, what developments are available, I can share that with you. My intention of making this video early on is to help those students who want to begin right away with proper practice, exam oriented practice. As such, course companions are out already. So we have the very highly recommended Oxford course companion by Professor Popov. It was the most widely used in the previous curriculum. So definitely I recommend you purchase that one. Then we have the one by Pearson, again a very excellent book. And we have a lot of material being added regularly by Professor John Crane on his website Think IB in Thinking, and Professor Travis Dixon on his website Thematic Education. All very credible sources and very, very helpful material available in all of them. But I do understand that besides all the written material, the notes, the content that is available, you need to learn how to write your answers. And that is the objective of making this video, to get you into practicing your answers right from the beginning. It's not something that you can leave for till the end. In the past curriculums also, this has been the number one mistake made by students. Throughout the 2 years that are there, they just keep on learning theoretically all the material that is there, and they keep on like rereading it, and they don't actually practice answer writing, and then they do very poorly on the exams. So to give you that exam orientation and that practice approach right from the beginning, I'm going to teach you how to write the SAQs in this video. As of now, when I'm making this video, no specimen papers are out yet. So what I'm doing is I'm taking questions from that rough syllabus which has been released by the IB. I believe it's going to be the best to take those questions and write model answers to them to guide you with other possible answers that you will be preparing. Also, marking rubrics are not out yet. Once we have the proper official IB guide, the rubrics will be available only in those. But there's always this very standard pattern that the IB follows. Even in the 2011 and 2019 curricula which were there, these are the standard ways of writing answers that I'm going to discuss in this video. So you can rest assured that what we are learning in this video is the correct way of answering the questions. Later on, when the rubrics are officially uploaded, I will show you how the answers that I'm writing meet the requirements on those rubrics for you to score full marks. The answers I'm going to write are grade 7 answers, full mark answers. So eventually I will put up those videos as well. I'm going to make a series of video lessons for the IB 2027 curriculum. So those will be coming out soon as well. So at the time of making this video, those few companions are out, as I've mentioned. The rough guide is available with a few questions that we will start discussing in this video. No official guide is available yet, and some companions are yet to come out. So let's make the most of what is there. The first 1-2 years tend to be very slow. It takes a lot of time for things to come out. So I don't want you to be left behind or confused just because of that, just because you're the first batch who's going to appear for it. So from that point of view, to give you the best possible guidance on the right track, to absolve all your dilemmas, I'm making this video. Okay, so as I've mentioned already, I'm taking questions which are given in the guide that has been released, that rough guide which has been released on the official IB website. I'll link it in the description box below. And I will take you through the answers for this. I won't be able to write complete answers, that takes a lot of time, but I will give you full structure for writing the answers. You can use it to develop your own. In fact, I will write out complete answers and I'll upload them on my website. You can download them from there. I will link them in the description box and pin comment below. As I show you how to write the answers in this video, I will be giving you a lot of tips and guidance that will be useful to you above and beyond the model answers that I give. So the reason for you watching this lesson should be to get guidance from me or to get that mentoring rather than trying to get a ready-made answer. Again, before we begin in this introduction itself, I want you to know, for the IB, there are just too many permutations of what questions can come up. There are, I believe this time, as Professor Popov has estimated, 228 possible ERQs that could be formulated given the concepts and the content, the way they combine. Of course, I'll do an ERQ lesson also soon. I'll explain further in that. If there are 228 long answers that can come, you can only imagine how many short answers can come. Especially when we look at the application question today, there will be so many possibilities of which scenario they could give in the paper. There's always going to be a unique scenario that they give. We'll never be able to predict it. So it's never sensible to try to memorize an answer that a professor is sharing. Always look at how that answer is being written. So that is the point of view from which I will conduct this lesson today. Okay, so I'll just put up the first question on the screen. In your paper 1, the first question that is going to come is going to be what we call a descriptive SAQ. So first, before we see the answer for this, let's understand what this question is about. You have 3 approaches for paper 1 that you have to learn. One is the biological approach, how physiological and anatomical factors determine our behavior. That is what they teach you under the biological approach. Then you have the cognitive approach, how our thought processes, our belief systems, and our mental functioning, how that determines behavior is what they teach you in the cognitive approach. And then you have the socio-cultural approach, how the immediate society around us, that is interpersonal relationships, and how the larger society, its beliefs, guidelines, rituals, how that dictates us, culture basically. That is what they teach us in the socio-cultural approach. You're going to study a lot of topics or chapters in IB psychology for paper 1. These are organized into these 3 approaches. So some are from biological, some from cognitive, some from socio-cultural. Now from an exam point of view, as they have specified here, they are going to give you 2 SAQs right at the beginning. These are the very first questions you're going to come across. Each for 4 marks. 3 approaches are there for any 2 of them. We can't predict which ones. They are going to give you these SAQs. So how you have to prepare is all the 3 approaches. You cannot leave out any because they are going to ask you from any without telling you, without giving you options from which to select. So you have to prepare all the possible approaches for SAQs. This has always been the case in all curricula of IB. And then you just, what I mean by descriptive SAQ is just write down what you have learned in the textbook into the SAQ. So we'll take one SAQ as an example, which I've put on the screen. And using that, I'll explain to you what I mean by writing a descriptive answer. The first SAQ given as an example in the guide is from biological approach. As I mentioned, in biological approach, we learn about how anatomical and physiological factors influence behavior. So the question asked is, describe how one chemical messenger plays a role in human behavior. Let's go over some preliminaries first before I guide you for this answer. One thing is when they ask for a 4-marker descriptive question. Technically, it is said to come from Assessment Objective 1, AO1, but I don't want to get into that terminology. That's not used a lot in IB. By descriptive answer, what I mean is you only have to strictly write what you have learnt in the course from your course companion. You are not to give any application. As you can see, there's no situation or scenario to which they expect you to apply your knowledge. And you do not have to give any strengths or weaknesses. So you do not have to analyze or evaluate in any way. It's a standard descriptive question which you see in many of your subjects, what we call the direct questions. What you've learned in the book, just jot that down. This is that type of question. Secondly, it is for 4 marks. Word count tends to matter in IB. You're not to exceed the word count, because officially, if you exceed it, the examiner is not obliged to check what is beyond the word count. So that part of the answer will be ignored. Now, in the previous syllabus, 9-marker SAQs used to come. This time they have reduced it to 4 marks. So accordingly, the word count as such, they never officially release what is the word count. But over the years, we've realized for a 4-marker type of question, it's a broad range, but the answer can be in between 150 to 250 words. Considering that one sentence tends to be anywhere between 25 to 30 words, you can assume that this is telling you that you write about 5 to say somewhere 9 or 10 sentences in the answer. So this is a really brief answer that is expected from you. Another preliminary is, in the previous paper, because the short answer questions had more weightage, they were for 9 marks, it was compulsory that you include a study in your answer. So whatever answer you're giving, you have to support it with actual experimental research or any sort of empirical research, not necessarily experimental, that has been done. This time that is optional. You could give a study, a proper empirical study to support, or you could just give any common real life example. It's no longer necessary for you to include a study in your 4-marker SAQ. And whatever I'm writing for this one is going to apply to the next SAQ as well. These purple pointers that I'm giving, they apply to any 4 markers that are there. SAQ, I mean short answer question. Okay, also when it comes to things like organization. Organization is a criterion in IB. It refers to having a logically sequenced answer. They don't really talk about organization in terms of how you're presenting on the paper. So these many paragraphs should be there, or you should write in bullet points and all. Though that is not what they mean by organization. Of course, but one thing is there, you're not to write answers in complete bullet points. You write in paragraphs. You show good writing skills in IB. Okay, so write paragraphs. How many paragraphs you want to write? That is up to you. So you want to break down the answer into paragraphs, or you want to write one short paragraph, that is up to you. I strongly recommend you break down the answer in paragraphs to make it more like understandable, better understandable. Like for example, the larger concept, its definition, explanation, you can give in one paragraph. And the next one, the study or real life example that you intend to share, that could come next. A conclusion could come next. Just makes it easier to follow for the examiner. As I said, for presentation as such, there are no marks. They don't cut your marks. But why not make it easy for the examiner to read your answers such that they don't miss out on anything that you've written, so you don't end up losing marks by accident. Next comes to introductions and conclusions. It is such a restricted answer, like you have only 150 to 250 words. Of course, you cannot give big introductions and conclusions. You have to be very precise in an SAQ, especially of this type, the descriptive type. Very briefly, you can have an introduction and conclusion. The introduction has to straight away start with what is asked in the question. So, very to the point type of introduction that addresses the question directly and restricted to one sentence. And the conclusion should be a very brief, again, one liner, two liner type of summary of what you have written, linking back whatever you've jotted down to the original question. So, of course, that is a flow of the answer. Like I said, writing skills are important in IB. So, automatically, this is what an introduction and conclusion would mean in an SAQ. It's just that it requires some practice as you're writing. That's why writing answers from the beginning is so important. It might seem trivial to you, but don't take it lightly. For these things, you lose marks. If you don't conclude by linking back to the question, or you don't begin directly by addressing the question, you actually lose marks. Even in this 4-mark answer, there is room to bring you down to 3 or 2 marks. So make sure you follow these preliminary tips that I'm giving, no matter which 4-marker you write. Still, and I'm going to give you an outline for this particular answer. Still, if you are doubtful and you need to really see a proper answer in front of you, I've already mentioned the introduction. If you haven't seen that, I'm linking full model answers. What I'm writing here complete, as you should write in the paper. I'm linking them. I've uploaded them on my website. In the description box or pinned comment below, you can click on the link and download the answers from them. Okay, now let's read this question. Keeping all these things in mind, they'll become automatic to you when you go to the exam hall, because you would have practiced so much. You don't have to think about them again and again. But having all these things in mind, read the question carefully. That's the next thing. And then only start writing your answer. Okay, the question reads, describe how one chemical messenger plays a role in one human behavior. How you are to read a question. One chemical messenger. Strictly stick to one. They haven't given an option of giving more than that. One human behavior. Again, strictly you stick to that one human behavior. You don't exceed that. Now, I have already mentioned introduction means addressing the question. There are just too many possibilities of which chemical messengers and which behaviors you could discuss. So, addressing the question means specify which chemical messenger and which behavior in particular you are talking about. Make it known to the examiner. Now, this time the term they've come up with is very broad, chemical messenger. Hormones found in the endocrine system are also chemical messengers, as are neurotransmitters, which are found in the brain. So, it's strictly up to you which one you want to take. I am taking a neurotransmitter for illustration purposes. So, dopamine is one neurotransmitter which influences the behavior of romantic love. So that is how I'm going to begin the answer. To some of you, it might seem like it's just jumping down very quickly. First you should explain what's a chemical messenger, what are hormones, what are neurotransmitters in general, some examples of neurotransmitters and hormones, various behaviors that are affected by them. There is no room in a 4-marker where you are restricted to 150 to 250 words to talk about everything under the sun. So you have to come down directly to this is the neurotransmitter, this is the behavior that I'm taking up. Of course, you can define. In one line, you could define what's a neurotransmitter, what is generally dopamine, and what is romantic love. But restrict all those definitions to one line each. You're not writing an essay. You are not writing as much as possible. That's never how IB gives you marks. A person who writes more will get more marks. Otherwise, they wouldn't have restricted the word count. They want brevity. They want precision. So make sure that you are going about directly. Have a very direct approach to writing the answers. Okay, so you can have one paragraph of your introduction. As I've mentioned, you could include descriptions or brief definitions of dopamine, romantic love, if you want neurotransmitter in general. Another paragraph could be elaborating on how exactly dopamine impacts romantic love. Again, not talking about general impact of dopamine, because as such it impacts everything, right from motor behavior to rewarding sense of reward, addictive behaviors. We cannot give all implications of dopamine for a 4 marker. But the question does ask us how. That's why it's important to read the question. Describe how one chemical messenger influences behavior. You cannot omit the how part. So your next paragraph should be about how exactly your chosen chemical is influencing your chosen behavior. So things like where dopamine is found in the brain, in which brain areas, like the VTA, that is where it is found. It's found in the mesolimbic pathways, and exactly how it functions. When we come across a loved individual or any of their representations, their memoirs, how exactly dopamine gets released to reinforce us into a feeling attraction and a kind of, a desire for closeness or proximity to that individual. You can explain these things in the next paragraph. So one paragraph is on the introduction, general definitions. The next paragraph is on the question, focused on the how part of it, how this chemical messenger is influencing this behavior. Next, I would like to take a study to illustrate this. But as we've mentioned before, in the introduction, I've explained this. You could give a real world example also. There's this very popular study across syllabus of the IB, Fisher, Brown, and Aaron study. It's an experiment which shows how dopamine is released when people see photographs of their loved ones compared to photographs of just acquaintances. And that indicates how dopamine is playing a role in enabling romantic love, because it releases selectively only when we see the photographs of loved individuals. So you could describe that experiment. I think it's there in all the textbooks. Always when you describe a study, so if your choice is that to illustrate how dopamine is working, you're going to give an actual study. Always describe it in a fixed format: aims, procedure, results, conclusion. Okay, and after you've given this study, now comes the link back. That can be your final paragraph, what we'll call a conclusion paragraph. So whatever is found in this study, like in this case, in the Fisher Brown Aaron study, participants dopamine was releasing, that was getting them attracted to photographs of their loved ones. So at the beginning, what we have explained about how dopamine affects romantic love, how dopamine releasing in those certain brain areas causes an individual to feel romantic love. How do the results of Fisher, Brown, and Aaron link back to that? What do they tell us about the initial description that we have given? That is something we need to give in the conclusion. So this would be my style of writing an SAQ. Before I come to the next SAQ, I want you to just brainstorm a few other possibilities of what could be written in this answer. So other possible content. Quickly, I'll just give you a few suggestions and how else you could structure the answer if not this way. There are many possibilities, just a few I'm discussing with you. As long as you're well organized, that's fine. One is you could talk about hormones, as I've mentioned earlier. So, in hormones, you have oxytocin. So, studies like those trust game studies, I think by Kosfeld, that could make one answer SAQ. Assuming you're following the same format: introduction, how, description, conclusion. So, instead of neurotransmitter, you could have taken a hormone. Instead of Fisher, Brown, Aaron, romantic love, you could have taken Kosfeld and trust. Trust would be the behavior in this case, Kosfeld would be the supporting study. Serotonin is another popular neurotransmitter, and there's this study by Caspi et al. On depression, how serotonin regulates mood. That could have been your answer. I think these are the most popular ones. Even pheromones would come under chemical messengers. So the Vedikind study, in which T-shirts were smelled, uh, pheromone was not able to. I think MHDC was the pheromone, and the behavior that was getting impacted was again romantic love or attraction, rather not so much love, it was more about interpersonal attraction. So any of those behaviors, chemical messengers and studies would qualify for this topic. You could take any of those in terms of content, and of course there are endless possibilities. When the syllabus changes, it's not like everything changes. So if you can get hold of any of the mark schemes from the older syllabus, you could request your teacher, you whatever suggestions in those mark schemes, then list of studies and possible topics that they give you, like which hormones, which neurotransmitters could be discussed for an answer. You could take that list and choose which one you would like to write about. Of course, otherwise the simplest way is to refer to your course companion. Number of chemicals and behaviors must have been discussed in that. Okay. And how else you could structure the answer? This was about other possible content. Other possible structuring, I don't see any other way for the introduction. More or less, it's going to be about addressing the question. So that I will keep to that. Instead of the study to illustrate how the chemical messenger works, an alternative would just be to give a real life example. So what you could do here is, instead of giving how dopamine works, for instance, and a study, you could just replace the entire thing, all these two paragraphs, with just how dopamine works. You could go deeper into the mechanisms. Like here, I would just specify the brain areas and how dopamine gives a pleasurable or rewarding sensation. But you can become really elaborate about that. So you could suggest exactly what is happening as a loved one comes closer, exactly at that time how dopamine releases and reinforces the behavior, instead of demonstrating with Fisher Brown and saying that when photographs are seen, dopamine works in this way. In general, when a loved one is proximal, how dopamine releases, you could discuss that. So you could substitute this whole thing with a continuous paragraph only going into the depth of how dopamine works. Highly recommended you give some examples, if not a study example, a real life example at least. Don't keep it devoid of examples show your understanding. When the marking rubrics come out, I'm sure there's going to be this thing on understanding, it's always there, which is not just mere knowledge or mere factual information. You have to show the examiner that you actually understand what is being said in the topic about the relation between dopamine and behavior. That is best explained with an example. Like, example is the best way you can show your understanding. And then in the conclusion also, I don't see any substitute. You link back your real life example, if that is what you're giving, to what you have described originally about how dopamine affects love. So, more or less, the structure can be the same. It's only the middle body paragraphs that you could alter a little bit for the SEQ. Make sure you remain in the 150 250 word count. Students could find it difficult to stay within that. My tips to remain within the word count and not to exceed it would be: one, brevity, precision, like I've been emphasizing from the beginning. Don't stray here and there, be very focused. Second, for the study, avoid giving unnecessary details beyond aim, procedure, results, and conclusion. Just because you've learned to study well, you've memorized how many participants are there, exact numerical results, so you just give it for the sake of it. Be relevant. In IB, the key is being relevant, not showing off your knowledge. See, I have memorized so much and I'm going to jot down everything possible. What is relevant to show that dopamine impacts love behavior, not the sample size, not the numerical results, the broad findings and the patterns that have emerged from the study. So just stick to that. And of course, there is no replacement for practice. The more you practice, the more you will learn to be focused. If you're just going to keep reading throughout the 2 years, hoping that when the paper comes, you will be able to write a to the point answer, that's not going to happen. So you have to practice right away. Right from now, you have to start actually writing your answers, and then you will come within the word count. Okay, let me take the second question also. Again, I'm taking it from that same rough guide which has been released. All the tips that I've given now apply to this question as well, so I won't go over them again. This question is from the cognitive approach. Explain anchoring bias with reference to one example of human behavior. No matter how SEQs are phrased, you will realize that there's not much difference in structuring them. Because if I say describe how chemical messenger affects behavior, explain anchoring bias, and I'm asking for an example of human behavior. Of course, again, I'm asking explain how anchoring bias affects human behavior. So there's no need to alter the structure. As of now, we don't know whether they'll ask SEQs focused on single studies. It seems unlikely this time. If that comes in, describe one study or explain one study of anchoring bias, then the way of writing will change. But as long as it's focused on the concept like anchoring bias, and the example or the study is just a illustration purpose, till then we don't need to change the structure of how we are writing the answers. So like I told you, asking only about the study seems unlikely this time, but if it comes up, I'll put a lesson on that as well. Okay, so this one I'm going to take you through quickly because it's more or less the same like the previous. Just we can take it as a revision of what I've already explained. In the introduction, we can just come to the point which human behavior we are taking. Anchoring bias as such is only one bias they're asking, they're not giving us choice. So, anchoring bias affects decision making or judgment. That is the behavior I would like to take. So, in the introduction, I would give a definition of anchoring bias, what type of a cognitive bias it is, and I would point out that the behavior I'm going to take for this answer is decision making. Then again, here they have directly said give an example. Anyways, we have learned we have to give an example. I would give from a study again. A very popular study is by Tversky and Kahneman. How they induced anchoring bias in participants was they asked them to estimate how many African countries are a part of the UN, and they anchored them to a large or small number that they introduced them to with a lucky spin of the wheel in the beginning. So that study I would summarize here in terms of aim, procedure, results, and conclusion. Just because example is mentioned, I have brought in the study first, like to tell you this is how I'll summarize. But of course, before giving the study, there's going to be this one paragraph on how anchoring bias influences human behavior, how it affects decision making in particular. Okay, so I would take that and then I will introduce the study. Okay, so then I give the description of the study. Alternatively, if you're giving a real life example, you're not getting into a study, so you're just say showing how in a supermarket, for example, consumers would decide what to buy based on anchors around pricing of other products or something like that. So your paragraph could be about that instead of a study like Tversky and Kahneman. And then, of course, you can give a conclusion in which you link back the results if you're giving Tversky and Kahneman. So, okay, participants who got a high anchor on spinning the wheel, they tended to estimate more countries, and those who got a low anchor gave a smaller estimate. How does that link back to how exactly anchoring bias influences decision making? You need to give that in the conclusion. Alternatively, if you're giving a real world example, such as a supermarket example, so how customers' behavior over there illustrates the impact of anchoring bias on judgment. You need to link back to that. So you can see the structuring is the same as the previous. Quickly, I'll go over what other content you could cover for this. There's not much room over here because anchoring bias is a very specific cognitive bias. They haven't left it to us to decide any cognitive bias. So where I see a little wriggle room is in terms of the study that you're giving. Tversky and Kahneman have done number of studies on anchoring bias. You could take any of those. Mostly those are the ones which come to my mind for anchoring bias. So instead of this UK, UN African nation study, there are those framing effect type of studies, also the hospital study, if I'm not mistaken, in which participants are given some anchor and then they have to estimate how many babies must be born in a hospital. So they're given some sort of description that's a large hospital or a small one, and then they have to decide more boys and more girls must be born every day in that hospital. You could give that study alternatively. So I just believe the studies is where you have wriggle room or where you have real life examples. One example like I give you could give of shopping, supermarkets. Another possible example you could give in real life is when people are uncertain, uncertainty judgments. There they could be using anchoring bias in negotiations, bargaining, even beyond shopping. Same trade deals or in services deals, there people could use anchoring bias, or just for when, say, again, it's a kind of negotiation when someone's being appointed for a job. The candidate can resort to anchoring bias to get a good remuneration for themselves, something like that. So those possibilities are there what you could give for anchoring bias. Okay, so this is about how you answer the descriptive SAQ. Next, we have the application type of SAQ, 6 marker. Now, in the guide that has been released, we don't have any particular situation, so I've just come up with a syllabus like from another book. It's a really old book, so I can't credit it unfortunately right now, like where this syllabus is, this scenario is from. So we are going to refer to this scenario. It's not there in the guide as I mentioned. It's something that I'm giving you from my side, and we are going to answer the SAQs for this. The SAQ questions which are there, I'm taking from the guide that's been released. It's just that the scenario is not from there. There's no available scenario, so I was not able to take. Just like I did for the 4 marker SAQ, first I'll give you some guidelines. I'll write in purple font here how to answer these questions, and then we'll go over specific questions. First, let's understand how a 4 marker and 6 marker SAQ is different. How a descriptive type of SAQ that we've just seen is different from an application type of SAQ that we are going to see. In an application short answer question, you are given a scenario like we can see on the top. Whatever you've learned, whatever knowledge and understanding you have to apply it to the situation. So unlike in the previous SAQ, here you cannot just write down whatever you've learned from the textbook. You have to apply that knowledge. You have to keep on linking what you've learned to the situation given. It's something like in your English language or other language papers, you have unseen comprehensions or passages which you have to read and then answer the questions given below them. This is very similar to that. Because this is what we call AO2, assessment objective to application, there's no strengths and weaknesses that you need to give. I won't say that there's no description at all you need to give. You do have to describe what you have learned in the book and then apply it here. So some amount of description is there. But only that much description has to be given as much as is relevant to the scenario here. No unnecessary description beyond what can explain what is given in the scenario here. So in that sense, it's very different from the previous SAQ. Because the primary focus is on application, very little on description. And like I said, no evaluation, no AO3 at all, no strengths and weaknesses at all. This is the first thing you need to keep in mind while answering this SAQ. Next thing, again coming to the word count. For the 4 marker, the word count we've taken is 150 to 250 words. Here you can take the word count as, of course, extended from that. If you tend to write more precisely, this one you could cover in 250 words minimum. And again, there's a broad range. If you tend to write a little more elaborately, you can take it as 250 words. If word counting, specifically like literally counting every word when you're writing, that tends to be very difficult and can become a nuisance when you're writing. So avoiding that, if you just remain relevant, as I had said in the previous answer, like just be very focused on what you're writing, automatically you'll fit in the word count. You won't have to think about it separately and bother yourself. Okay, so 250, 350 words is somewhere like around, you can assume, say, anywhere between 9 sentences to say about 15, 16 sentences, that way. And to break down to paragraphs, you could think of like, say, 2 paragraphs of 10 sentences or 3 paragraphs of 5 sentences each or something. I'm telling you very roughly, approximately. You can see what is your writing style and adapt to that. Now, what other guidelines you need to keep in mind while writing? As I've already mentioned, but just to emphasize very heavily on that, be relevant to the given scenario. Don't exceed knowledge beyond the scenario. Like, you've learned a lot about one topic, but if some part of what you've learned is not relevant to the scenario, avoid giving that, because the focus is on application. So show your focus is there. And secondly, that also helps you to be within the word limit. Besides that, again, same things will apply, which apply to the 4 marker SAQs. No bullet points, write in proper paragraphs, make your writing skills good, like typical essay writing skills should be there. And also, even here, what applies is introductions, conclusions, you keep very brief. In fact, in IB, even in ARQs or essay questions, we aim for brevity. So there's no room for unnecessarily lengthy introductions which are beating around the bush, or conclusions which just go on repeating what is in the answer. That's not really applicable anywhere. But at most, where you can give a little detailed introduction and conclusion is the essay type of answers, the longer ones, those 15 marker types. Here, giving long introductions and conclusions is going to take away your word count and not get you any marks in return. So, no lengthy introductions or conclusions. Again, same type of introduction and conclusion for these answers like you would do for the 4 markers. Introduction directly addressing the question that's given, and conclusion just linking back whatever you've jotted down to the original question and showing like how your answer is relevant for that question. These are the guidelines I can think of as of now. As we go through the scenario, if there's anything else to add, I will tell you about that also. When it comes to an application question, after keeping these things in mind, which will become automatic to you as you keep practicing, read the question very carefully. In any IB question, it's very important to read carefully, especially now, since for those research methods also they're going to give you full synopsis to read through, like full studies that have been done. Reading skills have become very important. Especially for these application type of questions, you have to literally read every word very carefully, because as I will demonstrate when we come to the questions, you have to pick up every clue given in the question. So when you're applying a theory or a study to this scenario, one aspect of this, one action that the individual is doing, or one event that is happening, how it relates to that theory or study, you'll have to point out in your answer to get full marks. So if you're not even reading that, there's no way you will be able to link correctly. So make sure to read very carefully. Okay, I'll just read quickly. You can read with me. Ria is a 17-year-old student preparing for her final exams. She often finds it difficult to remember information from her textbooks, especially if she only reads them once. Her psychology teacher suggests that instead of simply reading the material, she should use strategies like rehearsing aloud, breaking down information into smaller parts, and making revision flashcards. After trying these strategies consistently, Ria finds that she is able to recall concepts more accurately during tests. During group study sessions, Ria notices that her classmate Araf, who consistently performs well, uses certain effective habits. He explains concepts to others, uses spaced repetition, and avoids multitasking. Inspired by his behavior, Ria begins to imitate his study techniques, hoping to improve her own academic performance. Over time, she not only performs better in tests but also encourages her younger cousin to follow the same strategies by modeling the techniques in front of her. You have to read very carefully. I've still read it fast. When you're reading, take your time to read. A very big blunder is to read in a haste because I just want to be fast, don't want to run out of time, and writing absolutely incorrect answers, then realizing mistakes are being made, cancelling those answers, going back, in the process wasting much more time than you are hoping to save by reading in a haste. If you read slowly, it can take some time, not much though, but it saves you a lot of time from all those mistakes that you make when you don't read carefully. So it's totally worth taking the time and reading carefully. Now, just check yourself before coming to the questions. Have you understood what is there? Then only look at the questions. I'll just paste the first question given in the guide. Also, I want you to know something about the scenario type of questions before I come to the specific question. In the guide, it says that some study will be given and there will be a question on that. Now, initially, I thought that there will be some specific research study given, but that's not the case. I checked with the course companion also. Study means literally anything. Like this is not a formal case study as such, not a very proper research report type of study, but this also counts as a study. Alternatively, it could be just about any scenario, any real world example that is given. So, in that sense, like, this is a case study. I know you must be thinking this is not like a proper case study. It is not. But this is what they mean when they say study in the syllabus. Okay, let's look at the first question. With reference to this study, explain the role of models in the study of cognitive processes. It is beyond the scope of this lesson for me to explain to you all the theories and all which are there in the syllabus. That's why I didn't explain for the 4 markers also, that will become too tedious. So assuming that you know the social learning theory, the models theory, cognitive models theories, I'm going to give you the answer. So in case you don't know models, cognitive models topic, if you haven't done it already, make sure you read it first and then you can come back to this video. Otherwise you won't understand the outline that I'm making. See, as such, if we look at the topic of cognitive models, there are a lot of information processing models available. But if you look at this scenario, what is the most relevant to what Ria is doing? She just reads the material, then eventually when her teacher tells her to break it down and to keep on repeating and stuff, then she starts doing better. It's clearly hinting at the multi-store model of memory. No doubt you must be learning many models. You will learn the multi-store working memory model and this model, like a schema model. So like that you learn many models. In models, depends exactly which course companion you're referring to. But this is where application skill lies in the SAQ. And that's why it's so important to read carefully also to know which of the models you've learned is relevant for this situation. So provided that you have learned your model correctly, in this case multi-store model, and you have read what is happening here correctly, then only as a beginning point, you'll be able to identify that here you need to apply the multi-store model, the Atkinson and Shiffrin model. So that's what we need to do here. When you're writing the answer also for what we have been calling an introduction, that one line, the opening which tells the examiner what you're writing about, you could begin right from there. So you could start off by saying that multi-store model is relevant to Ria's situation. Literally just pointing out to the examiner that I know that this is the model that I need to talk about and this is what I will be talking about further. This is called introduction for the SAQs. Make sure you're able to identify correctly if you go wrong here. Like here, if you identify a wrong model, like working memory model, which is not actually what is being shown, and then you try to deliberately fit it into what is given, it can be a very expensive mistake because the entire answer will go wrong from that point. So make sure you learn correctly, you actually have understanding, and then you apply. In many schools, rote learning is encouraged. If that is the case in your school, take the effort to learn yourself. Rote learning will not help you answer application questions. IB has completely drifted off to application. They have kept description to a minimum now. So make sure that you know how to apply. Identification is important, which won't come from rote learning. It will come from understanding. After this, after you've understood, okay, this is about the MSM, you do describe the MSM. MSM, I mean multi-store model. But as I have mentioned already, you give a brief description of it. So you just define the 3 stores: sensory register, short-term memory, long-term memory. You could give simple points on their capacity, duration, encoding. You don't need to go beyond that. Why you mention all that? Because you're going to link each of those things to the scenario given. That's why you need to mention. So of course the processes which are linking those stores together, like attention, retrieval, rehearsal, you define that also in the process as you give the stores. So as I mentioned earlier, description is inevitably going to come into the answer, but you describe only that much as you're going to use to explain what is happening in Ria's case. There will be a lot of other things you know about the MSN. You know who has given it, why they gave it, what was the background for giving the model, how they were inspired by computer models, about long-term memory, how it's further bifurcated, how short-term memory has many components. But is any of that relevant to explaining what Ria is doing? No. So you'll give only as much description as is required for Ria's situation. I would like to remind you, if you need to see the exact answer in front of you to understand how this works out, you can download it from my website. I can't describe the full answer over here. It's beyond the scope of this lesson. Okay, so we define MSM as much as is relevant to the scenario. Next thing, of course, is going to be to link all the things that we have given to Ria. This is the key part. This is where we get marks. maximum marks we are going to get over here. When the marking rubric releases, you will realize for these application type of questions, that time I'll put it on screen and show to you. All the important marks, like maximum majority marks, are going to be devoted here, using the MSM to explain what Ria is doing. I'll give you a few examples of what you could describe. When Ria is just reading her textbooks once, that's what she does initially. If you see the situation, till her teacher advises her, she just reads it once. Means she does not do sufficient rehearsal. Which is why information does not transfer from STM to LTM. Further, if you look at the situation, once her teacher advises her to rehearse, that is when she actually gets into repetition or rehearsal. And that is when information transfers into her permanent storage, that is to her LTM. And there are other instances also. If you read carefully the scenario, there is also mention of chunking, when her teacher tells her to group down information uh, to make full use of her STM. Or you also see in the situation, it's mentioned that she should make revision flashcards, which will help her to rehearse just before the exam what she's done previously. So again, that serves as a type of rehearsal. So you have just given one or two examples of how MSM is highlighted in the situation. You need to give everything that is relevant, you need to link when you're writing. So that is how you have to answer. I haven't written the full answer here, but even in this much, even in this gist which I have given, what you will notice is, this is the way of writing, very important. You use wording from the scenario. Like I mentioned, the teacher's rehearsal, the teacher's advice, and that is to read the notes. Of course, when I write the full answer, I would say the teacher's advice to prepare the notes or to keep on reading. That is what makes for rehearsal or repetition. So I'm going on connecting the MSM concepts like rehearsal, chunking, encoding, LTM to STM transfer, and so forth, to the situation given, using wording from the situation, talking about Ria, talking about the teacher throughout. The biggest mistake students make in application across boards is to write application as if it's description. This is how MSM works. Information transfers from STM to LTM. Rehearsal takes place. Why have they given you such a lengthy scenario about Ria if they don't want you to link to that at all? If they don't want you to talk about it only, what was the point? They could have just asked you what is MSM. So the key to getting marks for application questions is to keep on linking to the situation which is given, and writing in that wording which makes it very explicit or very clear. This is what is given here, this is what is happening according to MSM. Next, this is given here, next, this is what is happening according to MSM. Throughout, your approach to writing has to be this way. And then at the end, again, you could give a very brief conclusion. So you could, in fact, give a separate paragraph. I would say a very brief paragraph, like 1 or 2 sentences, in which you say, okay, so this is what Ria is doing, and this is how it links back to models of memory, not just multi-store model. The question is about how models of memory help in the study of cognitive processes. So this is how all of this links back to models helping in studying cognitive processes. So what is the structure here? Not very different from the description SAQ, but that subtle difference is what counts the most. So first we give an introduction, again just pointing out this is what we are going to give, and this is the behavior we have selected. So this is the model that we have selected in this case. Then we give a description of the MSM, which is like putting down those points which are going to be relevant to explaining this particular scenario, not everything about MSM. So relevant information about the concept or theory is what we give next. Next is application, the key subtle difference which is there, which counts for everything, applying to the situation. Whatever relevant information we have given about the concept or theory in the second paragraph or second point, that is what we apply here. All of that, what was relevant, we apply here. I didn't do it while reading out the scenario, but that's a good way. You should not write in the question paper, but when you're practicing, you keep on writing like this, and in the question paper, then you mentally note down, like as you're going through the paragraph, you keep on making mental or actual notes. Like I said, when you're practicing for yourself, you can make these notes. She finds it difficult to remember if she reads them once. So, you note here, rehearsal is missing. Pen is not working properly. Okay, my pen is not working properly. So what I'll do is in font only I'll write here. In red font I'll put it so that you can distinguish. It's like as you're reading, you just keep on noting. Okay, this line means rehearsal is missing. See, once you've done a complete reading, you know this is about the MSM. So now before writing your answer, you just note, okay, this aspect which is given, it means this with relevance to MSM. Teacher tells us simply instead of reading, she should use strategies like reading aloud. Means teacher is suggesting rehearsal. Okay, the pen is working again. Again, I can't do this for the whole situation. I don't have that much time, but you do it for the whole paragraph. You keep on noting what the teacher is doing, what Riya is doing, which is relevant to MSM. Means this concept of MSM I'm seeing in this sentence. In the next sentence, this is the concept of MSM which I'm seeing. What this practice helps you to do is, when you're writing your answer, you don't miss out on anything which is given in the scenario, which will get your marks down. So make sure to exhaust or cover everything that is given in the scenario. Okay, so that is a good strategy for practice. When you do it in writing in practice, it can take some time, but it will become quick very soon once you understand what you're doing. And in the final paper, when you write, it's going to come automatically. It's going to save your time. And of course, linking back is the conclusion. So as I said, the structure is not very different from an SAQ. In IB psychology, from answer to answer, you won't find the structures being very different. It's just that what exactly is the content you're covering within the structure and how much weightage you're giving to every aspect of the structure, like all the different elements. That is what you have to be clever about. You have to have knowledge about. Okay, so all these strategies that I've given for the 6 marker here, they will apply to the next question as well. Let me put up the next question. So that we'll just take from a revision point of view, that whatever we have learned right now, we're just revisiting it with the help of the next question. Next, they've asked, explain how social learning theory could be used to achieve this goal. Coming back to the situation, what is this goal that they are talking about? If you've read the question carefully, you must have seen one section over there which says that Riya wants to perform more accurately. Hoping to improve her own academic performance. So this is her goal. What they mean by goal is what is, of course, Riya trying to achieve. Her goal is to improve her academic performance. So then when they're asking us, explain how social learning theory could be achieved this goal, used to achieve this goal, they mean how Riya can use it to improve her academic performance. So now, we are going to use social learning theory. The question looks different. It's actually the same like the previous one. In the sense, the structuring, the way of applying is the same. So we'll just revise. When we are going through the scenario, we just keep on noting what concepts of social learning theory are coming up. I've identified as such in this time directly they have pointed out to social learning theory. Unlike models, they've not left it to us to decide which model will apply. So first I quickly bring to mind what concepts are then social learning theory. Attention, retention, motivation and reproduction. Also imitation, observation, modeling. These concepts are there. So now I read the paragraph again line by line. I've already read it, so it goes very quickly. And I just keep on noting in which sentence which concept is coming across. Again, I won't do it for the full paragraph right now, but you can follow the same momentum which I'm giving here to cover the whole paragraph. Riya notices that her classmate Arav is doing something, meaning that Arav is the model over here in terms of social learning theory. Riya is the observer, because anyone who observes a behavior being demonstrated by another becomes the observer. Arav is the model. Means when you're reading again the second time in light of the theory you've identified or which is mentioned in the question, you take it as now I'm applying this theory, I'm using the theory as a template to understand what is happening here. And then line by line, you read it from the theory's context. He uses certain habits, he explains concepts, this, that, that's all good. But now, again, from a social learning standpoint, what is happening over here? Riya, how does she know that Arav is explaining, he's doing space repetition, he's avoiding multitasking? I mean, she's very attentive to whatever he's doing, so she's noticed that these are the things he's doing. She is memorizing properly. She remembers that these are the things which he's doing, and so forth. Like I told you, I won't be able to cover everything here. But then, of course, she's getting motivation because she's hoping to improve her goals and reproduction, because she actually does it, as they've mentioned later. So in this way, you keep on identifying the concepts as you go along reading. And then now I'll give you a final illustration here of how to answer the 6 marker. So just let's revise what we have seen. First, we need to give an introduction. Here we are going to explain that social learning theory is relevant as such because they've already mentioned it in the question. So we don't need to point out to the examiner that we're talking about social learning theory. That's understood. But what we can do is the goal, they have just said goal, they have not said what's the goal. So in the introduction, we can point out the goal is to improve academic performance. Think of the introduction as where you give clarity or you make things explicit what the answer is going to be about. So whatever is vague or missing in the question, you're filling in that in the introduction. And of course, when you're writing, actually, I'm not writing the full sentence. Riya's goal is to improve academic performance. Next, you need to describe as much of the social learning theory as is relevant to this situation. So if you see Riya's situation, you will realize that attention, all those cognitive processes which I mentioned earlier, they are relevant. You can name all of them, define them very briefly in literally 2-3 words. Imitation, observation, modeling. Okay, these things you can give here. Next, you have to link to the situation. So I've already pointed out in the answer as such, I've marked, but I'll give you some examples. You could talk about how Riya is showing attention to Arav's behavior, like multitasking, this, that, how Arav is serving as the role model because he's the one who's showing these behaviors which can improve academic performance. How Riya is the observer because she's engaged in all the cognitive processes and ultimately she is able to imitate that behavior. So those things you explain using wording from the situation, talking about Arav and Riya in particular, not talking in the air, not talking in general terms. And then you link back. After explaining whatever Riya and Arav and those things of social learning theory, a last paragraph, literally 1-2 sentences on exactly how social learning theory took us through understanding how Riya began without being able to improve her performance, just having that goal, to finally actually improving her performance by observing Arav. So you just link it back that way, that this is how social learning theory helped us to understand this particular situation. So that is all I have for today's lesson. I have explained to you 2 types of questions how to answer. Supplementary material is available on my website. You can download it from there, as I've been mentioning throughout the video. Again, not from a point of view that those are only the answers which you can write, but from the standpoint that looking at those answers, I can also phrase my answers to be as close to that or as similar to those as possible. So again, from a perspective of how does this help me, or how can I match my answers to what is given. See this video. If you need to see it again, see it. Jot down all the guidance points I've given and then read those answers. It will be all the more helpful to you. Those answers will serve as concrete examples of the structuring that I have explained in this video. That's all I have to offer for today. I want to make the ERQs video soon because that tends to be the biggest bone of contention when it comes to IB. So, how those ERQs are to be answered this time, they are made very specific. Hopefully, a very soon next lesson will be on that. In the meanwhile, keep practicing your SAQs because those are the starting points to writing good ERQs. You can't practice ERQs before SAQs, not a wise strategy. First, write your SAQs, get into the hang of writing in IB format, then come to your ERQs. That will be the best approach. So, till I come up with the next video, keep practicing what I've done in this one. All the best for your preparation, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.